Okay, so where did I go to next? So I've done my character, then I've done my setting. So that next section. So let's look at this bit. It's much too easy to turn a blind eye to the suffering of these children. It's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. But these are entirely specious arguments designed by the lucky to abdicate responsibility for the suffering of others. Let's consider the new sweater you bought recently. Have you considered where it came from or who made it? No, of course you haven't. But maybe you should. Because the truth is that millions of children are employed in the textiles industries to meet our demand for fast fashion, cheap clothes that we wear a few times before deciding that they are not fashionable enough. Factories exploit children, paying very low wages so that we can save a few quid when we go shopping. Okay, so again, we know we're getting good at this now, so you're just going to pause in a minute, find the counter argument to challenge the audience. Okay, so we know when we're speaking that, and when we planned, when we were doing the invention, we had reasons for and against. So this is a time where I've integrated a counter argument. Okay, can you find it? What pronouns have I used and why? So remember, pronouns are those words that replace names. So words like I, you, we, me, they, you, we, I, you, we, they, him, her. So have a little look, see which pronouns I've used. What rhetorical figure have I used? Now you can see when we did this before, I gave you some choices: hyperborea, Boeotes, and diplosis. Now I'm just asking you what you think it is. Now there is some highlighting in the yellow, okay, to give you a little clue, but let's see what you can find. And what emotional response am I trying to create in my audience in this section? So in terms of pathos, what do I want my audience to be feeling? Fear, happy, invigorated, guilty, sad, disaffected, angry. What emotion am I going after? So just press pause and give yourself as much time as you need to find those answers. Okay? Okay, so let's have a little look at what the answers were. So she says, here we go. Okay, so where have I used a counter argument to challenge the audience? So really those two highlighted in speech marks elements are the sort of thing we would anticipate the audience, people in the audience saying, well, it's not my fault this child labour is happening. There's nothing I can do about it. So if you remember when we were doing the invention stage, and we've got your arguments for on one side of the table, and then you had to come up with some but moments. Now, this is where you get to think about, in my speech, when I'm rewriting it, do I need to integrate a but moment? Do I need a counter argument? But these are entirely specious arguments, is where I'm challenging it. So in other words, you might think you're right, but you're wrong. You might think it's not your fault, but you're wrong. You might think you can't do anything about it, but you're wrong. And that's what I'm doing. I'm challenging that. So if we were going to work a counter argument into your speech, you might find as you're rereading it today, there might be a point where you might say something like, it's much too easy to turn a blind eye to inequality in sport, saying, it's not my fault, I can't do anything about it. But these are entirely specious arguments designed by the lucky to abdicate responsibility for the inequality of others. So you could potentially think, when we're rewriting and really ensuring that our speeches are practically perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins, that you might need to build in a counter argument. So what sort of pronouns have been used here and why? So I should have been in there as well, but we've got I, you. Now us, I was being naughty because us is hiding, because it does say, let us consider the new sweater you bought recently. Us is hiding. You, I, you. So we've not got, and then just looking through, I, you, we down at the bottom. So there are quite a few being used here, but you've just got to pick out some of them, okay? Now, each of those pronouns, it's almost like a game of tennis. It's used to throw the ball at different members of the audience or to create a different response. So us is inclusive. Us, we're all holding this idea together. And then I switch to the you. Have you considered where it's come from? Of course you haven't, but maybe you should. So it's about putting the responsibility onto the audience to think. Okay, now the rhetorical figure. So if we look in that same area, have you considered where it came from or who made it? Question, no, of course you haven't. Can you see? So I've asked my question and I've answered it. So that's our hyperporia. Okay, so if you've spotted that one, brilliant. And what emotional response am I trying to create in my audience in this section? I want them to feel a little bit of, yes, guilt, to feel bad that they've, abdicated responsibility, bad, that we just want to save a few quid when we go shopping. And can you actually see just down at the bottom, well, that was one of our questions, we can save a few quid when we go shopping. I've suddenly gone from the high style to the lower style. Okay, so that kind of colloquial everyday language. We also have got the, it's easy to turn a blind eye, that metaphor. So a rhetorical, one of our high style features. Brilliant. Now, this is where I just want to give some people a little bit of reprieve. Now, people that have done every stage so far, they've got a character setting and a rising action paragraph. You are done for the day. Okay, if you have got your character setting and rising action, so in other words, all the week work, from last week done, and you've answered the questions today, you are now able to say, thank you very much, Miss Deutsch, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You are done. If any of these areas from last week are yet to be completed, that's what you're to use your remaining time to do today. Okay, so hear me, because I've got some people out there that are working amazingly hard and are so focused. Guys, I don't want you to try and create work for yourself that doesn't need to be done. If after your work from last week, you've done your character setting and rising action, so you've got 3 clear paragraphs for your speech, you are done for today. Brilliant. It was lovely working with you. I will speak to you tomorrow. If you've done all the work so far, these questions, but actually last week you didn't quite finish one of your paragraphs, I would like you to return to that lesson. All the YouTube videos are still there, and just spend the last 10 minutes of today making sure that those paragraphs are done. Okay, my lovely people? So that is us for today, and I will speak to you tomorrow.